So today we are talking about what I think is the most important topic as we embark upon our series on cultivating personal power. And it is self-worth. Self-worth is something, it's a realization, and it's a topic that we need to come back to over and over on the spiritual path. It's not one and done, as most things on the spiritual path are not. We continually spiral around and we come to understand and know a topic more deeply each time we contemplate it, each time we work with it in our day-to-day life. Specifically, I want to talk about self-worth versus self-importance, because in the way our society is structured and the conditioning that we all receive, there's this mix-up that happens. People conflate self-worth with self-importance, and they're not at all the same. Self-worth is knowing that you are worthy of existence. You are worthy, just as you are. There were countless causes and conditions that all came together at the right time in the right place to make you. And if you sit there and say, well, I'm not worthy, then you're basically saying existence is wrong. Which is absolutely ridiculous, because existence is not wrong and it's not right. Existence simply is. I can tell you that you're worthy. 1,000 other people can tell you that you're worthy. But it's a realization that, yes, I exist. I'm supposed to be here, whatever that means. For good or bad, your very existence is a miracle. And what you do with that miracle is entirely up to you. But the very basis of being here is miraculous. And you are worthy of that miracle. Who are you to say that you're not? The only way that you can say that you're not worthy is if you are conflating your worth with self-importance. Self-importance comes from the ego. And it's often quite destructive. Self-importance gets very big and heavy and clumsy and just knocks everything down that's in its way. And it's easy to knock things down. It's easy to destroy. But it takes worth in order to build, in order to create. So as we continue on the path, these teachings, especially the teachings of power, I say the foundation of those teachings is a strong sense of self-worth. Because without knowing I am worthy, when we start to get into the teachings of power, they can be twisted and start to become abusive. They can easily become a source of suffering and pain, and help you become very, very confused and disillusioned in the path. So as you explore different teachings, a good check to make is when you start to feel very, very confused, when you start to feel that something is not correct, the first thing that we check is, have I attached my self-worth to my self-importance? Have I attached my self-worth to something I'm going to accomplish? Have I attached my self-worth to something that I think I am? And if you have, then that's the issue to deal with, first of all. And only when you recognize that, oh, wait, I'm worthy just as I am right now, then we can go back and look at whatever it is that knocked us off balance and really start to understand, is this teaching not appropriate for me right now, or was I just so tied up in my own self-importance that I misunderstood, that I missed the point. Trikaya Buddhism is a path of awakening. We are using everything for the path, which means that in a certain sense we have to be ruthless, especially when we start to cultivate our personal power. And that means that ruthlessness is going to require that we slice away our ego and everything that is holding us into a particular formation. Now you can see how problematic that could be if you feel that your worth is tied into a certain structure. You know, and unfortunately, this is what many, many people are taught in our current world, in our society. There are people that truly believe this weird approach to life that, as far as I can tell, comes from this philosophy of Calvinism, where if you are doing well in life, then you are somehow more holy or connected to the divine. And that's completely false. One, your divinity, your self-worth, the miracle of you has nothing to do with your circumstances. It has nothing to do with the effort that you put forth. It simply is. But in our quest to control, again, more conditioning, I have to dominate the world. I have to dominate our life. Can't be lazy. Gotta push until we die. This mad rush to accumulate, to organize, to control, ultimately, is not the point of spiritual practice. Those are games that we play in order to cultivate and develop our personal power. But when our self-importance gets attached to our self-worth, then suddenly those games that we're playing in order to learn about our awareness, to highlight our different attachments, to exercise our mind so that we can hold the cosmos in our mind, all become ultra serious. They all become very, very heavy. And quite frankly, we get a little cranky. So if you're finding that your path is getting heavy, if you're not having fun on the spiritual path, take a long, hard look at your self-importance. Say, who am I that, has to accomplish this? Who am I that needs to have everything lined up just so? look at how angry I get when things get in my way. And when we can do that from this very strong base of self-worth, it's hilarious. There's a lot of laughter and joy and just the sheer ridiculousness of how we tie ourselves up into knots in order to play. Now, this is the other fear that starts to creep in. I can feel it rising in you already. Is that, but if I just accept that I'm fully worthy as I am right now, then I'll just be lazy and I won't do anything. Everybody will be lazy. They'll just be lazy people sitting around doing nothing all the time. Again, that's all coming out of a sense of self-importance. Like, well, if I don't do it, then there'll be disaster. And that's true. There might be a full-on disaster. You know, if you don't pay attention while you're driving down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, yeah, there's probably going to be a disaster. You might even die. And those are real consequences. But even if all of that happens, it does not affect your worth. You can be the most horrible person in the world, or you can be the ultimate saint in this world. The basic worth of both of those existences are the same. And I know that rubs on you and you're like, no, it can't be. I have to be good, because then I'll be worth something. And no, you already are worth something. You are worth everything. You are a miracle of existence. And again, I can tell you this over and over and over again, but until you actually recognize that in your own being, these are just words, but I want to encourage you to really sit with these words, to say to yourself, I am worthy. Especially in those moments where you feel like you have completely screwed everything up. And in those moments where everything has gone exactly to plan and you're celebrating. And that feeling of worth should be the same. You know, praise me, blame me, I will love you just the same. Because you and everything else is worthy of existence because you exist. It's really that simple. If you were not worthy of existence, you would not exist. But again, this problem of self-importance comes in. We think that our ideas are so important. We think that we have to do everything. That how we view the world and then push it on other people and think that they should do things in a certain way. That also is self-importance. So the first teaching of cultivating power is overcoming your self-importance. But the only way to do that successfully is to understand that you are worthy. I've seen many people go down the road of power and ruthlessly start cutting away their self-importance and ground themselves into this pile of quivering dust that's just full of suffering And then they wonder, why they're so miserable. Like, I did everything the path said. It's like, no, you missed the first step of understanding that I am worthy. I exist, and therefore I am worthy. So as you notice your self-importance rear its head, you get upset over something, notice that, I'm feeling very self-important right now. And laugh at that and cut it away. Ensure as you're cutting that there's still this recognition that I am worthy. It's a subtle thing at times. So it'll take some practice for you to start to fully develop that sense of humor when looking at your own actions, at your own attachments, when you start to notice that you are the source of your own suffering. This is not an easy thing. But we use our own being as the starting point, and we start to cut away our own self-importance. And then as we interact with others in the world, and we find ourselves in various situations, and we start to react to those situations, to those different people, that's another opportunity for us to confront our own self-importance while being grounded in our self-worth. We start to recognize that everyone that we encounter is a Buddha, and they're there to teach us. They are an emanation, the Nirmanakaya, the physical manifestation of Buddha nature appearing all around us. But if our self-importance is so big, it's just crashing into everything and we don't notice. So we cut through our self-importance, we stay grounded in self-worth, and then that allows us to recognize that, this Buddha is teaching me about my attachments. What a wonderful opportunity. Thank you. And that changes us. That changes the entire interaction. And because we've gotten our self-importance out of the way, we're able to allow power to move us. And suddenly we find ourselves just doing what needs to be done without any thought, without any calculation of, what am I going to get out of this? Is this going to be good for me? Is this going to build my portfolio? Is this going to build my self-importance? Am I going to get more stuff? Am I going to get more accolades? Worth doesn't care about any of that. Self-importance does. And it will keep you chasing and chasing and chasing. But the more we recognize it and just immediately cut that self-importance off, it frees up this tremendous amount of energy because we're not carrying this big, heavy weight of self-importance anymore. Instead, we're grounded in self-worth. Power comes through us. We are able to start to see the physical manifestation of Buddha nature. We start to see the energetic manifestation, the Sambhogakaya. this beautiful wave of energy just flowing into form and into formlessness. And as we keep observing, we keep looking, we see it as the clear light, the Dharmakaya. So this understanding, this knowledge of your intrinsic, innate self-worth is the foundation for everything. Buddhist teachings are designed to dissolve your ego. They're designed to take this structure of personality and self and melt it into formlessness, and then allow it to reform to fit the needs of the situation as a manifestation of the Nirmanakaya, so that you can be the Buddha for somebody else. And when we do this over and over and over again, we notice self-importance come up, we cut it out, we laugh, and we remember that, oh, Buddha nature. And then we begin to actually live in a Buddha field. There's no escape from living. There's no escape from existence. But we can engage with it and live in these beautiful high states that exist simultaneously with all the horrors. And when you are able to successfully cut away your self-importance, there is this, as I said, this great deal of laughter. We forget so easily. We think that we truly have been brainwashed into thinking our worth is based on these external factors, and they're not. All of those external factors arise out of self-importance, because you think as a self that you have to meet these different criteria. But it's self-worth that is the basis for real power. When you have grounded yourself in this real power, you can encounter any situation. You can meet everything and use it as part of the path. You find that you stop arguing with reality, and you can start playing and dancing with what actually is. And that's when the path gets really, really fun. So if you're going to play with power, if you're going to learn about power, make sure that you cultivate your self-worth. And again, this is a topic that we come back to over and over again. When we first get on the path, we learn to meditate. We learn to hold our mind still. And in that stillness, this joy just bubbles up, the unreasonable joy I've talked about before. And in that joy is this realization that, oh, I exist, and I'm worthy of existence. And you might just, at the beginning, just touch upon it lightly once in a while. But then as you develop your practice, you start to practice mindfulness, you start to really pay attention to the different habitual patterns that are arising. Some of them might even start to be very disturbing. And it's in those moments where you find yourself most disturbed that it's an opportunity to contemplate worth again. Because much of what is causing those disturbances is this where you've conflated self-worth with self-importance. So for a long time on the intermediate path, we have the disturbing thing arises in our mind. We see the pattern over and over and over again. We bring our awareness to bear on that pattern. And that light of the awareness starts to melt that pattern. We realize that, oh, that's causing me pain, so I'm going to stop doing it. And that creates more power. But there's this moment where we can start to think that we're gaining power because we're controlling something. And all we're controlling is the focus of our mind. That's it. But if we can go a little deeper and contemplate worth when we find ourselves knocked off balance, it can start to strengthen the sense that, oh, I'm worthy. Simply because I exist. Not because I've done anything, not because I need to do anything, but just simply because I'm here. And from there, we start to really build our power. So sit with this idea. Notice when you start to get heavy, when you start to get overly serious. And ask yourself, what's with the self-importance? Why do I think I'm so important? My teacher had a wonderful quote, which I probably won't get exactly right, but he said, I am not important, and this is my freedom. Because when we know that we're not important, we don't have to meet anyone's expectations, not even our own. We can simply be present and allow power itself to move us, which we'll talk more about on another day. But I wanted to spend today just talking about self-worth because, as I said, it's the foundation for all the teachings of power. When we start to get into more of the teachings of power, as I said, they can easily be twisted and appear sometimes they can appear very abusive if you allow it to attack your sense of self-worth instead of your sense of self-importance. So it's a very important distinction. So do yourself the favor and really sit and come to understand and recognize your own self-worth.